All right, Khan. Shalom, shalom, Israel. Shalom to the Torah, Shaz, Allah giving the course, all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh. Bahashem, Hamashiach, Mamalaki, Habashah. Shalom, shalom to the 12. All right, so I'm going to get straight into this, going into the basically Sirach 20 and verse 9. And I'm going to read it real quick. It says, there is a sinner that hath good success in evil things, and there is a gain that turneth into loss. So there's a sinner that have good success in evil things. All right. And what does that mean? So sometimes sinners, they have good success in things that's unprofitable and things that, are evil. Like, for example, there might be somebody that, let's say a Jake in the world. He's really good at sleeping with multiple women, having not one night stands. Every weekend, he pulls a girl, maybe every once in every 2 weeks or whatever, right? And likewise on the flip side, vice versa, a woman with a man. He's very good with that. And so the Lord said there is a sinner that have good success in evil things. We see a very, very repetitive type of scripture, I'll say, in the scriptures, which is the righteous looking at the wicked and looking at how they live, how wicked they are in terms of their actions, their deeds, what they say, yet they're still prospering. Yet they have all the money. Yet they have the cars, even going back into the ancient world, the great possessions. And here we are, we're keeping the commandments. The righteous are keeping the commandments. They're trying to live a godly life, and they don't have all that stuff. They only have little things, right? And sometimes they're even on the bottom. But the Lord said in the book of Matthew, chapter 19, and verses 29 on down, all the way to 30, I believe, he said that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So those that's last, who are what? The righteous. Even going to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 9. This is what Paul says through the Spirit. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 9. Let me see if this is what I want. 1 Corinthians 4:9, all praises. For I think that God had set forth us the apostles last, as they were appointed to death, for we are made a spectacle unto the world and to angels and to men. So the Lord, or Paul, is saying that he thinks that God has set forth the apostles last. Now, the apostles, were they rich people? They weren't rich people. They weren't people that had a lot of money and had a lot of possessions. They weren't the ones that were highly esteemed in that world, in that society. They were the last. Likewise, also the righteous of ancient times. For example, Job. Yeah, he was righteous and did have a lot of possessions, but the Lord took that from him. And at one point in time, he was on the bottom. Let's say Jeremiah as well. Jeremiah, he wasn't a rich person. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 1. This is the book of Jeremiah 12 and 1. It says, righteous art thou, O Lord, when I plead with thee. Yet let me talk with thee of thy judgments. Meaning, this is Jeremiah. He's calling the Lord righteous, but he is confused about something. He's confused about what the Lord's judgments and the Lord's decisions that he makes, right? So it says what? Wherefore doth the Lord, wherefore doth the way of the wicked prosper? Wherefore wherefore are all they happy that deal very treacherously? So Jeremiah is identifying the wicked. He's looking at the wicked and he's examining them. And so he's looking at them and saying that, why are they happy? Why are they prospering in this world, in this society? They're wicked. They're not righteous. They're not keeping God's commandments like how I am, talking about, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, he's prophesying, he's shaking the hand, he's receiving revelation after revelation after revelation, and he's comparing himself and the righteous to the wicked, but they don't have all the stuff that the wicked have. They don't have all the stuff that the wicked have. They're not prospering like how the wicked are prospering. They're not happy like how they see like the wicked are. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 15. All right. Let's go to Jeremiah 15 and verse number 16. Thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and rejoicing of mine heart, for I am called by thy name, O Lord God of hosts. Verse 17. I sat not in the assembly of the mockers, nor rejoiced. I sat alone because of thy hand, for thou hast filled me with indignation. So Jeremiah, he's happy in the sense that he's able to eat of the words of the Lord, meaning he's able to consume this word, he's able to understand it, he's able to break it down, etc. He's happy in that regard. But in the regard of having stuff and being around people, we see people in the world, they're all happy, they're getting together for Thanksgiving, for example, Christmas dinner. It doesn't even have to be that. These sometimes even weekly or monthly gatherings that our people in the world do have, especially they of the Northern Kingdom, right? So they have all these gatherings together. They get drunk, they get high, whatever, and they're in the house of myrrh, but they're wicked, and they even might have that car, and it looks like God is not even afflicting them. So that's why it might make some people question who are keeping God's commandments, who's trying to live righteously, is going to question you sometimes. Are you really doing the right thing? Because even we can see that in Malachi chapter 3. Let's get that in Malachi chapter 3. Right? Malachi 3 and 14 on down. Right? Let's go to Malachi 3 and 14. All praises. Ye have said it is vain to serve God. So this is the Most High talking to the nation of Israel. Not everybody in Israel, right? In this verse in particular, because let's keep going. It says it is vain to serve God. So some Israelites said it is vain to serve God. For why should we serve God? It's vain. It's unprofitable. So you got literally Israelites saying that it's unprofitable to serve the Most High. It is vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? And now we call the proud happy. Yea, they that work wickedness are set up. Yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. So we see here that certain wicked Israelites are saying that, look, it's vain to serve the Most High. We're all sad. We're all mourning. Look at the proud. They're happy. The proud are happy. They that work wickedness are set up, meaning they're set up there. They got everything going for themselves. They're living good. They're living lavishly. They're living comfortable. So why not be wicked? And that's what the wicked of our people are saying, right? Yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. They're delivered. You see that? So let's go to verse 16. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another, and the Lord hearkened and heard it, in a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I take up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. So these precepts are heavy, because even though sometimes, you might be keeping God's commandments, but here's the thing, you're pulling up in your bucket while you got our people in full on wickedness. They don't even believe in the works of the Most High, whatever, and they're in full blown wickedness. And here they are pulling up in a nice Mercedes, or in a car that you desire, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But that doesn't mean nothing, though. At the end of the day, materialistic things, materialistic materials, right, are going to perish at the end of the day. Knowledge and wisdom and understanding, that's why the Lord compares the knowledge, this wisdom, knowledge, understanding above rubies, because there's no money. You can't buy wisdom with physical money. You can't buy it. The Lord has to give it to you. I'm going to get this, right? I'm going to get this in the book of Wisdom of Solomon. The Lord literally has to give you wisdom, right? This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8 and verse 20. Yea, rather being good, I came into a body undefiled. Nevertheless, when I perceived that I could not otherwise obtain her,
I will repose
the her is
myself
talking
with
about
her,
wisdom,
for her
spirit of
conversation
wisdom,
hath no bitterness,
except God
and to live
gave
with
her
her hath
me,
no sorrow,
and that
but
I
mirth and
was a
joy.
point
Now
of
when I
wisdom
considered these things in myself,
also
and pondered them in
to
my
know
heart,
whose
how that
gift
to be
she
allied
was.
unto
I prayed
wisdom is
unto the Lord and besought
immortality,
him,
and
and with my
great
whole
pleasure it
heart
is to
I
have her
said.
friendship, and
So
in the works of her
Solomon
hands are
clearly
infinite
said that
riches. and in
The
the
only way to
exercise
get
of
wisdom
conference
is
with
that if
her,
the Most High
prudence,
gives it
and
to
in
you.
talking with her,
Now, of
a
course,
good
you can
report,
read
I
books. Of
went
course,
about
you can
seeking how to take her to me.
search
For
the
I was a
internet.
witty
Of course, you
child,
can read
and
the
had a good
Bible.
spirit.
Of course, you
Yea,
can
rather,
ask
being
questions
good,
from
I came
teachers,
into a body
etc., etc.
undefiled.
And that's how you physically
Nevertheless,
get
when I
wisdom.
perceived that I
But
could
at
not
the end of
otherwise
the
obtain
day,
her,
it's only
except God
through the
gave her
power of the
me,
Most
and that
High
was a point
and
of
through His
wisdom
divine
also to know
intervention
whose
do
gift
we
she was,
actually
I
have
prayed
that
unto the
wisdom.
Lord,
That's why in
and
First
besought
John
him,
chapter
and with
2
my
and
whole
verse number
heart I said,
26 on down, it says you have an unction from
Wisdom
the
of
Holy One,
Solomon
and
9.
you know
O
all
God of my
things. An
fathers,
unction going
and Lord
into
of
what?
mercy,
That
who hast made
that
all things
anointing.
with thy
The Most
word,
High has
and
anointed you.
ordained man
The
through
Most High
thy
has
wisdom,
anointed
that
us
he should
through the
have dominion
Spirit
over
to
the
even
creatures which
receive
thou
of this
hast
wisdom,
made, and
knowledge, and
order the
understanding.
world according to
Right?
equity and
So
righteousness,
going
and
back to this
execute
precept
judgment with
in the
an
book of
upright.
Sirach, chapter 20, there is a sinner that have good success in evil things, of course, right? You read about that in Psalms chapter 73, verses 1 on down. David, or Salakia, that's actually Asaph, but he talks about Asaph, Salakia, he talks about the wicked having a lot. They're set up, right? They speak wickedly concerning oppression. They're speaking proudly. They're living proudly, but yet they have great possessions. So there's a sinner that have good success in evil things, and breaking the Sabbath, and getting money by unjust means. But all that is going to come to an end. It says, and there is a gain that turneth to loss. So there's a gain that turneth to loss, and this can clearly be, seen as what? You might think something is a gain to you, but then it really turns out to be a loss. And you might think that something is a loss, but then it actually becomes a gain to you, right? Now, that's how the Most High works sometimes. He might give you a loss. You might perceive it as a loss. The Lord takes something away from you. You might be like, damn. But at the end of the day, it was a gain to you in another way, right? And likewise, on the flip side, the Most High might give you something that you see as a gain, but at the end of the day, it's actually a loss, right? Now, let's go to the book of Philippians, chapter 3, because Paul literally says that. Philippians 3 and verse 6, concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless. But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ, yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Hamashiach Yahushua my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ, and be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith. So, boom. Now, I want to touch verse 7 because it says, but what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. So what things were gained to him, being highly esteemed amongst men, people might view that as a gain, but in this case, in Paul's case, it was actually a loss, man, right? Because at the end of the day, it didn't matter, right? For example, if you had 12 cars, it don't matter if all the electricity goes out and you can't get gas. What does it profit you if you have 12 cars? What does it profit you if you have a mansion and there's no food? What profit is there if you have all things except for one thing that is the most important, which is the Most High being on your side? It doesn't profit at all, right? So what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Christ. You see that? So certain things, there's a gain that turned into loss. For example, if you get money off of selling cocaine to your people, yeah, it's a gain in terms of you getting money, but it's a loss at the same time because you're getting it off of unjust means and you're literally giving drugs to your people, which is furthering the affliction of your people, right? But other than that, that's Sirach 20 verse 9, looking at it in depthly through the Spirit. All praises to Yahweh Hashem, Hamashiach, Wamalaki Yahweh Shah, of course, the water of